Okay, so it says a Kampai.
Hi.
Yes.
Hello. Hello.
Hello again. I'm on a rather large glass of red. What are you on?
I'm on beer. Good old-fashioned beer. In the spirit of drinking and the Rovers' return, I'm on beer.
Well, that's very on brand, isn't it? Because it is questions over a beer. Not
That's right. So
over
suddenly,
a bourgeois red wine.
Yeah, well, you know, it's the image you want to project.
Yeah. I've even got almost like a pink shirt on as well. This is kind of.
And I'm wearing black for danger.
And can I just point out before we start?
Yeah.
My background and yours. Mine's the Zen kind of minimalist kind of. I've even got. This is Tor, my wife's office, by the way.
Right. Yes.
I've even got some standing stones.
Wow. Well, you know what? Next time I'm going to do it from my dojo next door. Daddy said, this is a little more Mahayana cultured. They're all Buddhas on there. Buddhas from around the world. There's a bit of Mount Fuji on there. I'll tell you what, my standing stone. Fuji-san.
Well, the next when Fuji is eventually downclassed from a mountain to a hill, you'll be partly to blame.
I think the spirit of Japan will perish when Fuji becomes a hill.
Anyway, welcome to number 16. That's what we decided.
Not them again.
Welcome to number 16 of Questions Over a Beer.
Yeah, this time I've enjoyed it with guests, I must admit. I think we get more guests on.
Well, I enjoyed it, but like it was much more of a spectator sport for me. Because it was just you and the guest talking. And I was like, I mean, this is my Zoom. I could have muted you both. I got a word in edgeways, but I didn't because I'm respectful.
Well, because also we were men of a similar background and generation.
Yeah.
Slightly, so you need to get someone of your generation on.
Yeah.
One of Kato Sensei's guys you need to get back, or some young person.
Yeah, some younger person.
Yeah, and someone who doesn't want to talk about the old days.
Well, so come on, let's kick off. So, who's going first, me or you?
You.
Okay. So, I thought this would be interesting for you. So, I have recently started following Knee Over Toes guy on Instagram.
Oh, yes.
Instagram is a bit like Facebook.
Yes. I've been on it, sort of. I'm dipping my toe into it.
Okay. Well, so you should follow Knees Over Toe Guy.
Okay, I will do.
It is one word, Knees Over Toe Guy.
Yeah.
You'll find it. You Instagram it, you'll find it. But he's an interesting chap. He's like he's young and he's kind of, zero body fat and he likes to kind of demonstrate without any top on. So if you get past that bit,
that's the best bit.
Stop it. He has I think he was a basketball coach or is a basketball coach, but he does loads of exercise that makes your like bulletproof knees. This whole bulletproof kind of bulletproof coffee originally, wasn't it? And then bulletproof knees and loads of kind of like exercises to strengthen your quads, but also your patella tendon and like make your patella tendon stronger, I guess, thicker, whatever it is. Yeah. And so we've been doing quite a few of these exercises, hamstring strengthening exercises as well. And like I've always suffered. Like for those who don't know, I've got no anterior cruciate ligament in my left knee, and I've got meniscus tears in both knees, and I've got my medial lateral ligaments in both knees have been torn, not snapped but torn. So like my knees are a bit knackered, and your also knees are a bit knackered. But I've been doing these, and like we've been doing them for like maybe 3 weeks, so I can see
really?
Quite a big difference. Yeah. So my question is, well, firstly, my thing is you should follow him because he's really
I will do.
But because you had your knee problems and you managed to kind of come the other side as well, haven't you?
Yeah, well, my right knee's fine, by the way. My left knee's got arthritis, so my left knee's bigger than my right knee, and I had a meniscus tear. But what I did was I stopped taking any medication for it. And I started eating lots of fish, lots of avocado. And I went for quite a while without drinking any beer. And also what I do is I squat every day, deep squats, that be heels down squats, which I've always been good at really for some reason. And it's it's the most common position in Asia. So I really try to work on a full range of motion, and with training with Rick Jackson, so I'm working on Cesar as well.
Yeah.
Just as an exercise for my knee for a full range of motion. So my knee is not bad at all. It's a lot better than it used to be, and that could be maybe 2 years after the operation. They say it takes a long time, doesn't it? But I run on it and I do exercise on it, and it's a lot better than it's been since it got bad. You know, it went bad in Japan. Do you remember that day in Japan?
Yeah.
She said to a judo mat. I think you had trouble with your knee, and that was the day my knee sort of broke. Really, just swelled up like a balloon.
Yeah.
So I'm a great believer in full range of motion, and you know, I think what I did is I gave it attention, some love and care, and literally would sit sometimes after training and like rub it, and give it attention. So I think all those things are be mindful, you know, pay attention to your injuries.
Yeah.
And
I think what it is that, like, we get to a set. Well, you're 61.
Yeah, that's nearly 59.
So yeah, in a couple of months you're 61, right? And like, and when that thing happened with your knee, you were probably about 59, yeah, 58.
Yeah, I was, yeah. And I had no trouble before that with my knee.
Yeah, and like I'm 48, but like I snapped my ACL when I was 28, so 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And for that entire time, I've worn a knee brace.
Yeah.
And it was only through lockdown that I decided that I would not wear the knee brace when we were training, you know, 1 meter square and everything.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, I'm not going to be moving as dynamically, and you know, complete control of what I'm doing. And that, so I did it with the Kihon, and then I did Kata, and then eventually Kumite. And now I wouldn't even consider wearing a knee brace.
Me too. I wouldn't wear a knee brace now.
Yeah, but I think you get to a certain age. I remember thinking, well, this is it now, because my knee was really bad a couple of years ago, like same time as you. And I thought, well, I'm 40, well, it'll be 46 then. Well, this is it. There's no way I can recover from this. You know, I'm just going to have to manage it for the rest of my career. But actually, that's not true. And I think the biggest problem is inflammation, isn't it? It's not so much injury. It's the inflammation that, because the snapping of my ACL, which ultimately is the stabilizing ligament within your knee, which then prevents your knee from buckling and stuff like that. Well, I don't suffer from that, because I've got enough strength in my quads and everything to compensate for that. So what I'm suffering from is inflammation that is maybe coming from the injury. And so by strengthening and taking care of managing it, inflammation goes, and then all of a sudden I've got almost full mobility back in my knee. I can do Cesar as well, and like you know, a few years ago I was really struggling with it.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah. So it's interesting that, like, no matter what age you are, you want to just kind of maybe take a step back and say, what kind of changes can I do that will stop it? And like, I think some people are maybe willing to make those changes, but like if you're really invested in kind of having that full mobility and use of your joints long term, then yeah, it's changes that got to be made. Yeah.
It's funny because, you know, we sit with Rick Jackson a lot, and he just, you know, Rick's being very funny, but he talks about, he says, like, you know, he's 70 now, it's his birthday the other week, you know, and he said, like, he's sort of training, he says, like, sort of flippantly, but he goes, if you haven't broken your body by the time you finish training, you haven't trained properly, which is a very Rick thing to say. And much as I love Rick, I think he's wrong on that one.
Yeah.
You know, but I think also building muscle is really important. I think, you know, as you get older, you get muscle wastage, and muscle supports the joints. And, you know, and if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
I meet lots of people similar age to me, you know, outside of karate, who just say, oh, I can't do that, or I can't run anymore, or I can't climb a step ladder. And you're thinking, you know, you're seriously, you know, you're 40, you're 58. Of course you can climb a step. Or you know, the sitting down on the floor, standing up on is the best.
Yeah. Yeah, we did that. I can't remember where it was actually, but I was with some friends who don't do karate, and I was like, oh well, you know, we were talking about kind of, you know, your aging process, and I was like, well, there's a few ways that you can actually see how young your body is, so I was telling them, like, sitting down cross-legged, okay, standing up, and the more limbs you use, the more that you touch the ground, the more. So if you put your hand down to help you, that's 10 years. If you put both hands, that's 10 years. If you go onto one knee, it's another 10 years. If you go into both knees, so if you're using both
you don't
hands
get up,
and
you're
both
dead.
knees, yeah, both hands and both knees, well, that's the extra 40 years, so that's plus 20, so you're 60, you've got a body of a 6-year-old or more. And I was like, so I cross-legged, sat down, and I stood up without any limbs touching the ground apart from my feet, and they were like, oh, right, okay, and then they couldn't do it. And they're in the 40s, and I was like,
well, I do one knee, my left knee has to go down. But I feel like sometimes, again, I use this word a lot, like a smart ass sometimes. Like, I'm not showing off. I'm just thinking, if you're doing karate, which is leading on to my next question to you, you should just be able to stand up. It's a bit like the NHS say things like, try and walk for 5 minutes a day, or go up and down stairs at every opportunity, and you'd be like, come on.
I think it's one of those, Bill Maher, the comedian commentator in the UK, in the US, he's gone on a lot about this during the last year, during COVID, because one of his big gripes, and he has been criticised it in the past for kind of like not body shaming, but kind of calling out kind of fat pride and all that kind of stuff. But one of the things that he was been really kind of harping on about over the last year is that like we're all been told to kind of take care of ourselves. We've all been told to kind of mental health and everything like that, but nobody is really specifically saying lose weight. Like, one of the biggest indicators of mortality within COVID is obesity, and they're all using. I mean, I'm grossly generalizing, so I don't want to upset anybody that's been affected by COVID, but like a lot of these euphemisms for obesity has been used rather than just obesity. And I know that's a simplistic way to say it, but actually, if you're overweight, then that's the last kind of bastion of kind of a taboo, really, about what, if people smoked, you'd say you shouldn't smoke. Or if you drink too much, you shouldn't drink so much. But if you're overeating, people are not necessarily saying, oh, you're overeating. And I know it's a really complex issue.
Well, no, but I've got a good friend of mine who's a comedian, and we did some gigs on the road one time, and literally it was a long tour, and I literally bought a bottle of vodka, and we sat back in our hotel, we shared like the hotel room, shared a room, and he bought like a big Kentucky Fried Chicken and two bars of chocolate, and we both looked at each other and laughed, because I said, you've got your thing and I've got mine, and it was kind of exactly the same. I drank a bottle of vodka to get me through the night, and he had a Kentucky Fried Chicken and two big bars of chocolate, and we had a great time. But it is what it is. Because we do karate, I think you're just part of doing karate, isn't it?
Yeah.
And also, I mean, this is just put on injury management. So, I mean, the question I was going to ask you, which has got about, you said a while ago, I think on a Zoom chat with me, and Julie and John, you said karate should start in Tokyo and sort of move gradually south towards Okinawa and China as you get older.
Yeah.
You remember saying that?
Yeah.
Which I think is quite a good way of looking at your karate. Because I think Matthew last was it. I think Matthew said, "Oh, you should start in Okinawa." And you said, "No, start in Tokyo with fast strong karate."
Yeah, I think. Well, there's a couple of things I think about that. Firstly, if you start in Tokyo, which is really the end of the karate journey, and finish in India, which is really the start of the karate journey.
Yeah.
And so you go from hardcore university up down kind of drilling of karate, that regimented militaristic style of karate, which I say university, that implies an age, but it's not, because you'll still go to any dojo throughout the world, and if it's JK derivative, then they're going to be doing that kind of up and down Kihon, Ido Kihon basics kind of thing. But if you start there, which is the last kind of iteration of karate, unless you kind of move to sports karate, but the last iteration of what karate became. Then as you get a little bit older, you kind of like a little bit more kind of Okinawan style, which is that kind of sense of finding your path, shuhari, and we're all part of the same community, but there's different households within that community, and each head of house, rather than the head of a massive organization, but head of house. And then if you go from there, as you're getting older, if you go from there to the more Tai Chi, kind of sense of kind of moving with the like stripping away effort, kind of doing the same form, the same technique, but with less and less effort. So you're just using much more core muscles to move and to hold your structure, and then eventually kind of ending up with that kind of yogini kind of feeling of just being connected to your body and moving within it and stretching it and keeping it healthy. And so yeah, I think from where it came to where it ended up, like that's a one-way journey, but actually we should be maybe journeying the other way in our progression.
No, I think that's, it's good. You know, I mean, the Bodhidharma supposedly, you know, brought those qigong exercises from India. No, but also just in practical terms, you're going from deep, sharp, fast karate. Once you go to Okinawa, all the stances are higher in every style. They're higher, you know, so they're different on your knees. So like Wei-Chi-Ryu only has Sanshin, and Shikodachi and Neko Ashidachi, they're the only stances it has. Much lighter movement. Still very hard style, but I think, you know, if you have bad knees, you can do pretty much all the way shikata, you know, and you can do goju kata if you do a high shikodachi.
Yeah.
And then there's the kobudo as well. You know, we know lots of people like Senaha Sensei, Steve, that they all do. Steve Sensei, that they all do kobudo, don't they? Even Onagar Sensei does kobudo now.
Yeah.
You know, which is again taking that journey. And I think, you know, you've done yoga in the past, and I was doing yoga before lockdown, and that's one of my resolutions post lockdown is to go to a yoga class once a week.
Yeah, and
I find it very useful.
I think yoga, because yoga, the movements within yoga, like I'm going to say this, but like I'm not 100% sure about the chronology of it, but certainly most of the yoga movements are fairly modern.
Yeah, it's modern yoga. That's quite right. Yeah.
So the philosophy of it and the movements and the exercise, the sense of being within your body is ancient, but the you know, the downward dog or upward facing dog or, you know, blah blah blah, those are fairly modern.
Yeah.
Just like, you know, the idea of, you know, Zen Kutsudachi Hamni or Zen Kutsudachi Shomen or hip vibration, that's fairly modern. There's nothing ancient there, but still the principles that they came from are old. So yeah, but like I've done yoga, and hopefully when we get back to normal, I can go back to yoga, because I find it really nice to just be in your body for that.
I love it. And then you sat on the floor as well. I think the other thing is interesting, you know, again, Rick's had a big influence, especially over lockdown. You know, I always talk about karate being empty hand, and you always sort of do this, don't you, and go, the empty hand becomes the fist. And he does it the other way, which I think is lovely, like is letting go. And you've got to kind of let go of that Tokyo, Edo, Kion karate. I mean, I still love that. I find it very comforting. I find it a cathartic experience to do it. You know, there's a certain, you know, warmth in doing it. But you have to let go and change all the time, don't you?
I think because when people first start karate, that's all it is about. I mean, literally they have that mushin, that beginner's mind, and it's all about newness and change and other, and, you know, like people start because they want to get stronger and they want to learn something new, or they want to, you know, a whole variety of reasons. But they're very, very much open to those new experiences and that learning. And then I think at some point, some people kind of, they hit that cul-de-sac of moving forward, and then they're fixed, and then they hit that fixed point where, okay, I know it now, and maybe there's a kind of a honeymoon period where they are good at karate and they know everything that they need to know, and they're going, okay, I'm top of my game, but then they don't keep on progressing, and then all of a sudden the aging process starts to take place, and they're forever trying to hold on to what they had, whereas they just remembered the beauty and the magic of that mushin, that beginner's mind, and go, oh, this is amazing, and just keep on moving forward. Yeah, I think they'd get a whole lot more from karate. I think we all have to guard ourselves against that, you know?
It's like when boxers make a comeback, you know, they go making a comeback, and it's always 100% always a bad idea. Because they're trying to do, they should, if they're going to come back, they should come back as a golfer, or as a, you know, as a different a ballroom dancer, Or,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? They should just, you can't come back as a, it's like, if I entered a competition at the HDKI Nationals, this year, it'd be like the most stupid thing to do, and then I was it's just like so I think find a way. It's about the way, find your way, and your way has to change. And there's a time and place still to do Idoki on. It's still great. Do it and enjoy it, but don't let that define your karate. So the people who are interesting, like Kanazawa got into loads of trouble for bringing in Tai Chi, for bringing in Kobudo, for doing non-Shotokan katas. And he used it as a brand. It was very clever. He branded his own Kanazawa karate, but he was a genuinely interesting master. He wasn't stuck on that. When your heart sinks, you go, the 3 Ks of karate. It does, though, doesn't it? Lots of lessons are always the same. We've trained in lessons with people who go right back to basics. You go, wait a minute. Your classes are back to basics sometimes. Stuart Amos sent and did the class today for us on karate. That was back to basics, but it wasn't just doing the basics.
Absolutely.
Talking about basics.
Or just talking about generic shapes. I mean, like recently, I think, like recently we've had, quite a few, obviously, different senior instructors come into the group, and it's lovely, But like, I'm sure there's some people out there that are kind of, like we're going, how is that going to work? Because, like, for example, Stuart, there were certain things that he was doing within Heian Nidan. He did Heian Nidan that I wouldn't do it that way. But like, there's not one point to me that goes, oh, he's not doing it right. I mean, he's doing it different, and so I think maybe from an outside point of view that might go, oh, well, that's really difficult, because if one person's teaching it one way, another person's teaching it another way, that'll get confusing for the students when it comes to grading, and which way will they do it? And like, actually, it doesn't matter, because good karate. Hang on, is it a bit early in the podcast to go the innate ability to recognize quality?
No, never too early. Never too early.
But the innate ability to recognize quality, I think is supreme. And like, it doesn't matter how it does matter how you do it, of course, but it doesn't really matter as long as you do it well. And I think the moment that you go down that cul-de-sac of knowledge, where you go, right, this is the absolute way, therefore this is the only way, therefore I'm the only one that's right, then all of a sudden you hit this kind of impasse where you not only can you not improve, but your students around you can't improve.
Well, that's the oldest story in the book, isn't it?
I think we need to guard against that really as much as possible. Anyway,
there you go. Well, that was my question morphed into your question.
Okay, cool. Shall I? Have you got another question? Shall I continue?
Go on. You do one, and then because and then I'll see where my questions are going. Okay. I know more about people.
Okay. Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Bitcoin.
Oh, okay. I know where you go with this.
No, do you? I have no idea where. So.
Oh, okay. I'm really the last person in the world to talk about Instagram, Bitcoin, or TikTok.
AJ in my dojo is really into Bitcoin. Well, he's into cryptocurrency, like into Bitcoin. He's invested quite a lot on, and actually one of my students recently told us that he basically bought his house on Bitcoin. Anyway, it's beside the point. But the thing I was going to say is I was watching a few podcasts recently and about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and it was really super interesting that one of the guys who was talking about it, his premise was basically that the banks are failing to see the possibilities of Bitcoin, and the Bitcoin's not even, or the cryptocurrency kind of environment community aren't even arguing the same argument. It's a step away, and so the banks can't win. The banks, the government, blah blah blah, can't win because they're not even stuck in the same language.
Not the same game.
The Bitcoin have just evolved to another level that like you can't win against it. Anyway, I mean, so it just got me thinking about, as many things do, kind of got me thinking about karate and about kind of how things are happening and what have you. And I think like, we're obviously constantly talking about the old school dinosaur kind of like, they're looking at things through their lens. They're kind of looking at maybe us or looking at other people or what other people are doing and critiquing them through their lens. And they don't realize that, I mean, within their community, their lens works. But then they use their lens, their kind of model of, or their kind of like their paradigm, to judge then our community. And I think we're not even talking the same language.
I totally agree with you. We're back to Wittgenstein again. If a lion could talk, we wouldn't understand what it was saying.
Yeah.
So I think you're completely right, because we all look at our life through our own lens, and that it's that inability to meet is the big problem, isn't it? Because there's literally there's no common ground. Like Karate at Home is a brilliant example. That's broken all the rules. Anyone can go on it.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And everyone has gone on it, and one of our guys is on it today, and he had 81 people.
91, I saw.
Was it 91? Yeah, 91. Brilliant. I mean, we've done it, and it's wonderful. But there was none of just doing it in my organisation.
Yeah.
I think we said this before. The days of in-house karate, I think, are numbered. I think, because it's nowhere near as interesting.
Yeah.
It's narrow, and it's not a good service to members. And like you say, there's no common, I don't know, the association perhaps we're thinking of, none of their guys of people have done a Karate at Home.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think like the problem is that they go, well, how does that work? How does that work if everybody can do what they want? Or like
yeah, it makes you angry.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no rules.
Yeah. But equally though, I think that's like part of realizing that is seeing that and saying, well, that the absurdity of that is then also kind of going, well, what truth do they have? What do they have that is good? And it comes back to Simon Sinek's kind of the infinite game, where you don't have competitors, you have rivals, because rivals reflect your weaknesses. Competitors, you just concentrate on your strengths to beat them. And so like I think kind of getting criticism like that is really useful, because it reminds you that actually their critique of you is absurd, because you're not looking through the same lens. So therefore you've got to be super critical about yourself and what are we doing right, what are we doing wrong, and how can we push ourselves forward. So
I just remember I had a memory once at Crystal Palace. I was doing a course at Crystal Palace, and there was a Hapkido class on in one of the things next, like a random Hapkido class was on.
Yeah.
And I looked at it, and someone said, "Oh, that's Hapkido, it's rubbish." And this person did like a spinning mawashi, jumping spin mawashi, and then he did like an Aikido throw. Yeah. And I went, "That's brilliant. I'd like to have a go at that." And he went, "No, she can't." It's like, no, look at it, look.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Yeah. How can that be rubbish?
Yeah.
And I think, even I was for a long time. You live in your own world, don't you?
Yeah.
And maybe most people don't travel well. You go to America, it's the best country in the world. Oh, really? Why is it? Because we say it is. Do you know what other countries are? No, but it's the best country. Tell me about how good is Denmark. We don't know. We're America. Hey, and that's a human thing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I had an interesting kind of similar experience in Japan with it was like a JKS. I think like maybe it was a JKS kind of international seminar, and we had this big venue. But next door there was a slightly smaller venue, and it had, I think, Taido. Do you know, like Nakasense's done a few kind of Taido?
I've seen it. Yeah, I think it was
Taido. It was something like that.
Yeah.
And these kids, all super athletic, were kind of jumping about and laughing and joking, and there was kind of Shotokan kind of senior instructor after senior instructor walking past the door going, you know, Shotokan, like. And I remember Koike senpai, Yutaka Koike from Switzerland.
It was very good.
He was very good, yeah. Him and I were watching it, and he looked and he went, yeah, who's happier?
You know what? Of all the Japanese senseis I've ever talked to, he's the only one I've had a proper conversation with about karate.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, if we'd actually talk about other styles and other karate, and yeah, he's the only one who ever expressed an opinion,
yeah,
and new stuff about other stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, no, I saw when I was in Tokyo, I saw a Taido thing, and I just thought it was great. Yeah, so I said Tokyo Budokan, I went to see it.
Okay.
See everything when I was over there. I saw kickbox and everything, and it was great. All young. It's a bit like wushu, you know, like Chinese wushu.
Yeah.
I mean, it was fun. And I mean, again, I looked at it, thought, I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. People get blinkered. You know, there is no absolute karate, is there? That's the other thing. Okay, so I was, you know, I like people. I like to talk about people. So talking about Koike Sensei is an interesting character. We've got, or you've booked, but actually we've booked. You've got Peter Consterdine coming to do something for us.
Yeah.
I mean, tell me how did you come across Peter Consterdine?
Well, I dropped him an email, and he rang
calling.
So yeah, like I've seen a few things of his, and you know, interestingly, when I was at university, there was a guy who was training with Kato Sensei. So I used to train with Kato Sensei every Monday and Wednesday, and there was this guy that used to come along and train with him. And one day he turned up to the change room, and he said, "Oh, I was training with this guy at the weekend, and he was amazing. He had the hardest punch that I've ever experienced." And I was like, "Really? Okay, what's that?" And he did this double hip thing.
Yeah.
And he did this double hip vibration, and it produced so much power. It was, and I was like, "Well, that's bullshit, isn't it?" Like,
it's like
what do you mean? Like, so all I could think of, like, if you think mechanically, I could think if they said that's your hips, I thought back, forward. Whereas, of course, that's all I could think, you know. And to be fair to me, the guy who was explaining it and demonstrating it wasn't very good. So it was very easy for me to dismiss it. I was like, well, you obviously you can't do it, so it's either shit or your shit or whatever. And so I just dismissed it. But looking back, it was Peter that he was training with.
Okay.
And so what Peter teaches is this kind of like, if you think about kind of Showman, well, you think about Showman, he does this double hip thing. When you think about Hammy, say there's the two hip joints, or like Showman, you go forward with your leading hip and then wrap your back hip around that. And it does this, and it's called passive power transfer. And it's a bit like a water skier. You know, when a water skier goes, so the water skier is going behind the boat. And the boat goes around the corner, and it kind of whips the water skier around. It kind of produces a lot more power. It's called passive power transfer. And so Peter teaches that. It's like, I think it's also Shitoryu.
Yeah, well, I mean, well, you know, he basically comes from a guy called Kimura Sensei.
Okay.
So what happened? Because going back to the 70s again, there was a guy called Tane. Tane Sensei was from Osaka. Osaka area was a hotbed of that. And he did Shitoru, and he did his own Tane Ha Shitoru, which is called HDKI. And this is quite controversial in the 70s, because they all fought in a special guard, which was great. And Roy Stanhope, all the people Bob Rhodes Sensei was talking about. And Kimura was this guy who was like, he was the first one to bring impact training into karate, really, in the 70s. He started, you know, swimming floats. Swimming floats and hold them, and he had this relaxed punch, and he was a complete maverick, and his whole career. I mean, he moved to America, and then he died of a heart attack. He got very big and died of a heart attack. But he was way ahead of his time, because he was doing traditional Japanese karate, sort of, and then moved into this Steve Uber-esque producing power. I mean, it's quite a narrow thing. That's the main thing he taught.
Yeah.
This and HDKI got quite big in bits of England.
Yeah.
And Peter was one of them. And I first read about him in Fighting Arts. Actually, I've got upstairs. He did a first full contact karate competition in Britain. It was in Manchester, and Peter won. And Terry O'Neill wrote the most impressive fighter of the night was HDKI's Peter Consterdine, who knocked out his opponent. I think it was the only knockout of the night. So he was way ahead of his time.
Yeah.
So he was doing all this stuff before, when most people weren't even doing Hammy Showman.
So I, like, a bit of an aside, when I was a kid, if we ever went on holiday in the UK, I always used to take my dogie. And I must have been a brown belt. I was a brown belt at the time, so I must have been like 15, maybe 16, something like that. Yeah. And we went to the Lake District, maybe on holiday. And at the time, you go to the local library and you look up karate club, and you'd find the karate club. And I went along we were there for a week, whatever. And there was just down the road, there was a karate club. And I turned up and said, "Oh, is it okay if I train? I'm on holiday." Yeah, of course you can. And it was HDKI.
Yeah.
And we hit floating
you did.
Yeah. And I was like, "Oh, this is a bit strange," but they could hit.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Jesus, that was 32 years ago." But Jesus, I can remember they could hit,
Yeah.
So anyway, the story about Peter is that I sent him a message. What I saw was there's a guy whose name I can't remember at the moment. He does the martial art journey. He's a
I've seen it. The hardest punch I've ever had.
Yeah. So, well, anyway, I can't remember his name. Never mind. Rokas, maybe. Anyway, it's called the Martial Art Journey. He's got a YouTube channel, and he was an Aikido instructor in Lithuania, I think it was, and Aikido instructor for 15 years, professional, and then decided that Aikido didn't work, and he controversially made a video why Aikido doesn't work, and he kind of started a YouTube channel, and he kind of started doing MMA, and eventually he ended up in Dublin, and Ross and Rue interviewed him on their podcast. Did a thing and blah blah blah. Very nice chap. He came to the dojo and trained once. Like, good guy. But anyway, he then went and trained with Peter, and the hardest punch I've ever that YouTube. And so in that video, the long video, I think there's a couple, but the long video, there's an interview with Peter, and he talks about Thursday morning training. He does a Thursday morning.
That's right, yeah.
And so I emailed him and said, look, okay, my name's Scott. I teach karate in Dublin. I have a number of full-time instructors that teach for me, train with me, and I'm always looking forward for them to have new experience. I heard that you do a Thursday morning class, and you mentioned that it was kind of open. I wonder if I could send them along. They're good lads.
Yeah.
And he rang me up.
Nice.
And said, "Hi, Scott. Yeah, of course. Come along."
Good.
They're very welcome. And so they were supposed to go last April.
Right.
Flights booked, hotel booked, everything during the Easter break last year.
Yeah.
And so they were going to go. I think it was Thursday. They were going to fly on the Wednesday. And Wednesday evening, train with him Thursday morning, and then he had a regular class on the Thursday night, and then he had a special class on the Friday there. So they're going to train 3 times and then fly back on the Friday afternoon. And so Ross, Rue, and AJ were all going, and so part of my helping them is to send them off and go and train with him and go and train with him. And so that was that, and obviously that was cancelled because of bloody COVID, And so, but we've kept in touch, and as soon as we can get back up and running, I'll send them over, and really nice to meet you, blah blah blah, chatting away. And then I said to him, "Do you fancy doing a Zoom seminar?" And he was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And so that's why at the end of the month we're doing it. It's going to be me, him, and JD Swanson. And I just thought,
That's a really good mix of people, actually.
Yeah. I mean, JD obviously younger, like you got young, medium, and a little bit
Professor
older.
JD.
Professor PhD JD. I just thought,
science. I mean, it's a nice little link you've got there.
Yeah, so I think it'll be a really good seminar. I'm looking forward
to it. That's April, the end April. Do you remember the date?
26th, I think.
April the 26th, and that's good. Well, no, well, the only thing I'd also add about Peter Consterdine is I've got his other book called Combat Fitness by him, which is just about being fit.
Yeah.
And which is one of my things.
Yeah.
And he said he just still, I think in the last issue of Shoshkan Karate magazine, he wrote an article about training. He said, like, you should always do at least one hard training session a week.
Yeah.
That's just gut-wrenching, short, sweet, hard.
Yeah.
Which again we kind of believe in, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Cool. Well, there we go.
There you go.
How
are we doing for time?
Is it my turn or your turn?
Well, my next one is another people question.
Okay. Well, I've got one question left.
Right, I've got sort of a question left.
Okay.
Do we do yours, and then if you have any more time, we'll do my sort of question.
Okay. So yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine recently about this, and I actually it's Easter. It's Easter Sunday. Happy Easter, Simon says.
Easter. I've got an egg and everything.
I got a Lindor egg.
Oh, I got a Kit Kat egg.
Kit Kat egg.
I've got 2 eggs. I've had one.
Really?
The other one, yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying not like. So part of my I have had a terrible sugar addiction since I was born, and so
an old excuse.
Yeah, like this is a lot to do with. This is another interesting thing. There's a lot to do about my gut biome. Yeah. Actually, recently I've been using Yakult. And so like I'm constantly trying to make sure that my gut biome isn't saying to me, eat sugar. And like over the last couple of years, I've been fairly successful. And sometimes I have to kind of like tweak it a little bit just to make sure that I'm not kind of going back to that eat sugar gut biome. But then my good wife buys me chocolate for Easter, and I'm like, thanks. Anyway.
Yeah.
What was I saying? Oh yeah, useful fiction.
Yeah.
So it's Easter, and I was talking to a friend recently about this, and it was like she was saying, like, how is it that people still believe in religion? Controversial.
Yeah.
I'm going to swiftly move past that. But what I was saying to it is,
the short answer is they don't.
Well, some people
they just pay lip service to it because you get chocolate and presents. It's been capitalized.
Yeah, that's true. That's a lot of people, but also there's some people that really do believe.
Yes.
And that's fine. And what I was saying to it is like it's a useful fiction.
Yeah.
And I think and I've written about this actually, and I was wondering, I don't know if I got your thoughts on it. Like, I think what I was saying to it is like, like when someone in America, for example, well, probably only America, where you have your EDF. You know what your EDF is? Oh no, EDC. Hang on. Yeah, EDC. You know what your EDC is? Your EDC is your everyday carry.
Everyday
carry.
Carry?
Yeah. What gun do you carry every day?
Oh wow.
Mine's a Glock 9mm. What's your EDC?
Oh, I see. Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's a thing.
Okay.
It's a thing. What's your EDC?
Wow.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. People talk within the gun community. What's your EDC? What's your everyday carry? Anyway, in America, when people say, "Oh, what's your EDC?" Oh, they say, "Oh, mine's a Glock 9." Oh, is there a Glock 9? I don't know. There's a Glock, and they go, "Oh, show us." And so they'll take the gun out, take the magazine out, and they'll make sure it's unloaded, and then they'll pass it over. And as soon as you take it, you'll whatever you do, you'll check that it's not loaded, then you'll look and go, oh yeah, that's a nice weight, and oh yeah, nice, yeah, that's nice. And then you'll, before handing it back, you check that it's not loaded, you hand it back, and then the owner checks it's not loaded, and then puts it back into the hole, put the magazine back in, and checks it, puts it in the holster. And this is done to a religious level.
I can imagine, like it's almost like EIDO.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. And so what I was saying to her is like, in America, that happens constantly, always, and it's a useful fiction. That is to say that they know it's not loaded, but by going through this regime, or this kind of almost kind of religious thing, is that it stops death, because there has been, continues to be accidental death by guns. And so by doing this, you're minimizing it. And it happens in a whole host of environments. It happens in surgeries, when people, like people do surgery in a hospital. It happens in, well, a whole host of things, and also in karate. So, for example, we all know that this block here doesn't really work. This, doesn't really work. But by doing that constantly, we get used to how to use our body, and then all of a sudden we're kind of moving in a free way, and it's a useful fiction. So, my question is, what do you think about useful fictions, and are we practicing it religiously?
Well, it's a very good question. And, I suppose useful fictions are only useful if people realize they're fiction.
Yeah.
That's the problem, you know what I mean? Yeah. You see, that's the thing, isn't it? It's like, Kierkegaard talked about the faith, the leap of the absurd. So he said, religion, Søren Kierkegaard, the philosopher, he says, life is absurd. Life's horrible, nasty, mean. We're all going to die for meaningless reasons. So people believe in religion to keep them going, as a way to make life bearable. Yeah. So, I mean, that in that way, maybe, you don't need to know it's a fiction. It's like a noble lie, Again, let's talk about a noble lie. But in terms of karate, people, if we started teaching karate again, we would never teach Agiyuki, would we? Or we teach. I mean, you know what I mean? If I said to you, you start teach karate from scratch, everything you know about karate now, you start a beginner's course, and in 1 year's time, show me your students and see. It'd be quite interesting, wouldn't it? What are they doing? And you don't use the same model. And would that be karate?
Yeah, I would, though. I mean, like in a very real sense, like we get beginners all the time, or we used to, and hopefully will get beginners all the time, and like we're still teaching that kind of basic formulaic Agiyuki kind of stuff. Like I personally wouldn't change it.
Okay, but I'm not saying you should. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Because even Chokazuki, I wonder really, why are we teaching people to leave Chokazuki out all the time, and why are we leaving stuff out? And I know why. But why, like boxing gyms, you start that way, jab. You don't go jab back.
Well, but to be fair though, we are telling them that this is a fiction.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. But so if I had my choice, which I do, and you do, then we teach the same thing, but we make sure that people understand it's a fiction.
Well, yeah, I think it goes back to the thing, again, I choose your quote, is you can do it the easy way or the hard way. We always teach training the hard way. So like, we try and extend ankle flexibility to the limit, compression in stances to the limit, motions to the limit for training. And it only works if people know that. Yeah. Because for lots of people, karate is those shapes, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's the thing, and then maybe that's the big weakness of karate, and that's why people who talk about fighting, karate's rubbish for those people.
Yeah.
Or a ridiculously, the worst, the worst bunkai you can ever see. Any bunkai where someone attacks Oyazuki and leaves it there and waits, I immediately just don't want to see it.
Yeah.
Because karate was never designed to defend against karate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a double-edged sword. It's convenient fiction is very useful as long as everyone's in on the game, as everyone's talking the same language.
Yeah.
Bitcoin's great if everyone believes in it.
Yeah.
The dollar is really, really important because everyone believes it. The minute nobody believes in the dollar, the dollar's done. And that's the change, isn't it?
Absolutely.
That Bitcoin thing's happening.
Yeah.
And then, do you remember when everyone thought VHS was the best thing in the world?
Yeah.
I remember getting rid of all my VHSs and getting DVDs, thinking this is it now. And I think I've got about 4 DVDs left.
Yeah.
and they're just because they're all sentimental ones, really.
It's all a fiat system. It's all based on make-believe,
Yeah, and I think we talked about this a lot in karate. The wheel has turned in karate now.
Yeah.
This year has been, a massive change and a democratization of power and the leveling out of the playing field of teaching.
I think that there's moments of that I think, there's a real change, and certainly COVID has accelerated that change. And then sometimes I have to kind of remind myself, I then constantly remind myself and say, well, actually, we are in our bubble. And yes, the HDKI is doing well. Yes, we're doing well. But it's still a much more of we're in a bubble, and it's so easy to think that bubble will kind of penetrate further and further out, and everyone's feeling like we feel. But I don't know. I mean, time will tell, of course, and we'll keep on plugging away, keep on training. We'll still keep on kind of, developing our art and like just putting it out there and going like, if you want to be part of our community, that's fine. But ultimately, who knows? Who knows? Because we're in our bubble, and it's very difficult to see outside our own bubble.
Well, yeah, going back to, you see through your lens as well.
Yeah.
That's the other, that's you can't help that.
Yeah.
You can, like I don't know, a bear can smell something from 10 miles away. And they've got their perceptions are completely different, and we can only see things, and we've got a different karate eye from other people.
Yeah.
And we're coming round again to what's good, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Simon Stacey, so last question before we finish.
Yeah, well, there's been a bit of a theme of like people being ahead of us, or nothing's new under the sun. So we talked to John Holsworth Sensei recently on Zoom with his wife Julie, Julie Nicholson. Great people, really good. And like he got a showdown. He showed us his book, didn't he?
Yeah.
He got a showdown from Annoyed Sensei in 1971.
Yeah.
I love stuff like that, Yeah. But then his karate, he was doing, he's very ahead on coaching and biomechanics and stuff. And like sometime in the 70s, he was developing, theoretical karate based on technique and body mechanics.
Yeah.
Which was sort of way ahead of its time.
Yeah, like because I'd never really, because we had a Zoom call with them, didn't they, when they joined the HDKI, and it was lovely to meet with them and chat with them, albeit virtually. But like before we did, because I knew them both actually. Julie through reputation in terms of competition, and John through a couple of articles that he'd written. But I never really, I just knew them and knew of them, and so I read a few interviews that Julie had done and stuff, and it was really interesting that back in the 90s and stuff, they were doing stuff about plyometrics and
that's right,
and stuff. And I was like, well, I started talking about plyometrics in, I don't know, 2005, 2000. And like they were, and I thought I was revolutionary, that deluded way I often have, and like they were there doing their stuff back in the early 90s and stuff. I was like, that's pretty amazing, and for them to have then developed that and gone further, and they should have been telling that to everyone at the time.
Well, there's another guy called Frank Cope Sensei from Birkenhead. And
I taught his dojo once.
Bernard Rose trained with him, I think.
Yeah, I taught his dojo once.
Yeah, and he basically got Nakayama Sensei's books. We talk about best karate a lot, and he just studied them.
Yeah.
And he basically, changed. He said, "Well, I'm going to do this karate now."
Yeah.
Way ahead of his time. He was doing this in the 80s again, 70s, 80s. He actually thought, "Well, I'm going to do best, Nakayama's karate," which a lot of people weren't doing at the time.
Yeah.
Again, and I wish I'd met him, because Birkenhead was only over the water,
Yeah, so I never met him, but like I taught at his dojo, and his son, I think it was, that hosted.
Yeah, I think I'm Facebook friends with his son. Yeah.
And I remember seeing. Sorry, you having a pan smashing session, isn't it?
Yes, go on.
I remember. You seriously. I remember seeing him on the front cover of SKM.
That's right. Yeah.
And he had a really nice stance.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh well, that innate ability to recognize quality. I thought, he knows what he's talking about. I think it was like in Teki Shodan, like
it was. It was definitely that. Yeah. I remember.
I looked at his Kibarachi and thought, That's not KUGB, because that's where he came from, right?
Yeah, well, you can tell, can't you, from a photograph, actually, you can often tell. I'm always appalled by some people who put pictures of themselves thinking, really, you think that's good?
Yeah.
Because you and me are very, very particular about pictures, aren't we? You know, someone takes pictures of me in live ones, I go, no, can't do that one, don't put that one in.
You got to keep control of the public image,
Well,
darling. Yeah. So to go back to Julie and John, I think they're probably a gold mine of information. So certainly, like we spoke about that kind of seminar that they do, and I'm going to get them over to do.
They're going to do a Zoom seminar for us very soon. Yeah, the end of April. Paula is going to put the date up, so that'll be out soon. They're going to do like a 2 45-minute session. Julie doing the practical stuff, John doing a sort of a lecture with Julie illustrating the points.
Right.
And he was like a proper coach. I mean, Julie always said, like, all her massive success, she was very, she said John was behind all that.
Yeah.
Because people didn't really coach in those days. And like Bob Rose was talking about training sessions where, John said he was really impressed. He watched our squad training. And people were allowed to have a drink of water. Do you remember? And you think, that's not even that modern, really, is it? Not having a drink of water was like in the 70s, that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
Pretty much since the 80s, people have been having water at training, haven't they?
Yeah. So there we go. So interesting times, and I look forward to getting him, and also both of them. Sorry, and also Bob Rhodes Sensei. He's going to come over to Dublin and teach a seminar. So just like new voices, and I mean they're not new in terms of karate wise, but they're certainly within the HDKI and to my guys, new voices. And I know when Stuart Amos has just done that karate at home today, he was over at Christmas with you. Like, it was a breath of fresh air. He was like something that my guys would never really normally have, that kind of like intense, like, you're going to do, the next kata you're going to do is going to be the best kata you've ever done in your life, kind of thing.
It's great.
But
it all tied in, it's different ways. Like it tied in with what Rick Jackson says, you've only done GL once. There's difference, but the same. It's kind of like a big jigsaw, isn't it? And then getting Peter Consterdine's great because it's not just Shotokan.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I think maybe because of Bruce Lee, I've always been, I just always wanted to do everything. I never just wanted to be Shotokan.
Yeah. So there we go.
There you go. Then that was good.
Yeah, right. Well, should we have a final
one? So we've got Peter Consterdine coming. We've got the Hombu Dojo instructors coming April 10th, is it?
10th, yeah. So we've broken the 100 mark, 100 people. So we're going to have two Zoom calls on that.
Wow.
Well, maybe we'll just increase. I don't know. We'll see. But like, certainly we're past the 100 mark, and normally we get kind of most people signing up the last couple of days. So it's on Saturday. It's on a week next Saturday.
Yeah.
So it should be good. Like the four of us at the Hombu Dojo, and then 2 weeks after that we got Peter and JD, and I know that's already kind of well on its way.
Just for people who don't know, JD Sensei 6 Dan, ISKF America, good friend of ours, karate science.
Yeah,
he's a smart guy. He's a very amusing teacher as well. Good teacher. He'll enjoy it. So it's a good course.
Yeah, it'd be good. Yeah. So there we go.
There you go. All right.
Okay, so Sensei.
Thank you.
Yes.
Bye.